Sports conversation the way it ought to be. This is Jeff Allen Sports Talk.
And welcome back to the show once again. We are glad to have you hitting the play button on your respective podcast device. And we are being joined, it's like another edition of From My Day Job, and a return guest from last year, Lauren Zelek, who ran the New York Marathon last year and also just completed the Chicago Marathon. So we're going to talk some running here on the program today. Lauren, glad to have you back.
Yeah, I'm so excited to be here. I wore my Chicago shirt just for you.
Awesome. I have my little puny 5K shirt on. You know, it doesn't even come close to what you do. But nonetheless, we're going to kind of rewind a little bit because you came on the show. You ran your first marathon last year in New York City. And to kind of catch people up, we have new listeners all the time. So when you were going into your first marathon, you know, the first time you don't know what you don't know, right? So kind of recap how that experience was for you.
Yeah, I think so much of the first marathon, Jeff, was like, I wanted to survive. Like, I wanted to make sure that my legs could get me through the full 26.2, that I wouldn't be this like epic tale of someone who is like collapsing at the end and not finishing. And so much of my goal and so much of, I think, like what went into my training was I just want to finish and I want to feel proud of the process. But I didn't have huge sort of like time goals that were driving a lot of the training cycle. Whereas this time, I think I realized what I could do, kind of what my body was capable of. And I really wanted to kind of push things and see if I turn the dials a little bit, kind of what I could expect to get out of a marathon experience.
And in the New York Marathon, you had detailed for us that you were that close to maybe not finishing.
Oh. So the end of the race was one of the most challenging moments, I think, of my adult life. Like I still rank it more challenging than childbirth, more challenging than many, many things that I've been through. Kind of those last 3-4 miles through Central Park when I wanted to give up many, many times. And like I said, I really just wanted to finish, but I did have like, I want to be a sub-4 marathoner. That was kind of something going into New York, was under 4 hours. And I was seconds away from that. So I think if I had really like let myself fall into that trap at the end of like, oh, I can't do this, I was really close to not finishing or just missing even like that kind of goal that I set for myself.
All right, and then I had asked you last year if you were going to run another marathon, and you weren't quite sure at the time. So what swung you into the direction of wanting to go do another marathon and go take the one in Chicago?
Yes. So this is like a running joke with marathoners or runners in general, is that at the very end of a race or right shortly thereafter, if you ask us, we're going to say no. And then we're just going to immediately forget all of the pain, trial, and tribulation and like sign up in like a fervor for the next race. And so that is exactly what happened to me after New York last year. The Chicago period to sign up for the lottery is right after the New York City Marathon. So within like a week or two, I had put my name into the hat for the lottery, thinking like there's a 1 in a million chance of getting in. Like marathon lotteries are notoriously impossible to get into. I did not get into a marathon lottery for New York. I went the charity route. And so I thought, okay, I'll throw my name in this hat. There's absolutely no way that I'll get it. And I got it. So that's how I found myself.
You could still decide not to do it, even though you won the lottery, right? You could
Well,
change your mind.
You could, but that would be misguided because then what if I never get selected for a lottery again because I had this opportunity, I didn't take it. Sure. So I felt like I had to at that point.
Awesome. All right. So you've done one marathon. Now you're getting ready to do another. What was different about your training for the second marathon than from the first?
Oh my gosh. It was like night and day different, Jeff. So I loved my first marathon training experience. I think that you kind of go through things that you're supposed to go through at a time in your life. And so for me, so much of the first marathon experience was like, I kind of always thought I would do one, but I didn't really know what it would look like. And I have three kids, and obviously we work together. So I have a busy job for my day job. And I just kind of wanted to see that I could do it. I think, like I mentioned before, so much of it was just proving to myself that like it was something that I was capable of. And then that's how my training was as well. My training was a lot of, okay, can I fit 4 to 5 runs a week into my life? And if I can, like, what does that look like? And what types of things do I move around? And my training was so much less about speed or volume or quality of runs. It was about quantity of runs, which I think is like kind of nuanced, but an important distinction to make. And this training cycle was I knew that I had the quantity in me. Like I knew I could sustain a 4 to 6 day a week training schedule. But I knew if I wanted to hit some of the ambitious goals that I set for myself, I would really have to dial in on like the quality side of things. And so I loved the folks that I worked with for my first marathon. I worked with this amazing group of women called Flock Fitness Orlando here in Central Florida. It's a lot of moms running, and it's such a great community to be a part of. But for the second marathon build, I did enlist the help of like some different types of coaches. So these are coaches who are really big into like speed workouts, speed training. And I would say it really like leveled up the quality of the training that I did. It's just a different type of training. If you're training with men, which was new for me because I mostly have familiarity running with women, mostly other moms. And so I'm out there with guys who just naturally can run a little bit faster than women. And so pushing myself from that standpoint. But the types of workouts that we did were much different this time around, which I think really gave me the confidence to know that like I could handle not only kind of, the quantity, but the quality work too, which is really important.
Is weight training involved?
Great question. So yes and no. My favorite week, if you think of like a week in the life of a marathon training block, is 2 sessions of strength training and then like 3 to 4 runs. And then of those 3 to 4 runs, you want to have typically one long run, one, I would say like zone 2 run. And you'll hear zone 2 a lot come up in running. If you think of running as having like zones 1 through 5, 5 or 6, whereas 5 or 6 are the highest, and 1 is sort of like a walking effort. Zone 2 should be considerably slower than your hardest effort. And that's where a lot of people say like the magic happens in running. Whereas if you kind of balance a lot of that zone 2 sort of easy running, you're giving your body the ability to really calibrate in a way that allows you to go faster on race day. So 2 strength sessions, ideal, 1 long run, so like a 10+ mile run, 1 like super chill run or zone 2 run, and then 1 like really hard, like sprinting, like tempo pace, which is kind of hard to sustain your breath, hard to have a conversation, that type of a workout. So 3 runs composed of that, 2 strength training sessions, and like 1 to 2 rest days is my perfect marathon week. But that all stopped like 6 weeks before the marathon because you just have to run so much, Jeff, at the end of a training block that there's no way for me as, again, like a mom of 3 with a busy full-time job, like I don't have enough hours of the day to balance that schedule. So I went down to 1 strength session for like kind of 3 or 4 weeks. And then I cut out strength completely the last month of marathon training, just because I couldn't sustain a 50-mile week while managing like the fatigue of your muscles. Like it's like scientifically when you're lifting and you have like, DOMS, like delayed onset muscle soreness, like you can't get the volume for the running that your body really needs to like fully recover. So that's why I say like I'm retired. I'm retired right now from marathons because I would love to get back to that sweet spot of 2 strength training sessions a week with like 3 to maybe 4 runs and then a rest day or 2. It's just so lovely. You need it to recover.
So is it typical to have like a calm period before
Oh,
the actual race?
totally. Totally. So marathon training, we call them like training blocks. Marathon training blocks can run anywhere from, I would say, like 12 to 20 weeks, depending on your base level of fitness. So my first marathon was last November. Then I ran another marathon in January, which I don't even know if I've told you about this, but
This is news. This
I
is
snuck,
news.
I snuck the Disney marathon in January with my girlfriends. It was maximum tomfoolery. Like we rode roller coasters in the middle. We were getting pretzels. We were like, it was not a serious race. It was a fun race, which I think you have to have for your mental health. But between New York and then Disney in January, I didn't start training for Chicago, which happens middle of October. I didn't start training in the beginning of July. So I did like I would say it was a shorter block. I did like a 12 to 13 week marathon block for that because I already had a base level of fitness going into it that was pretty high from just of running New York, just of running Disney marathon. And then I had like several half marathons. I went to Brooklyn to run a half marathon in May of last year. And so, or this year in 2025. And so I had like lots of little things peppered in. And so my block was a little bit shorter, but there's a cycle to a block, right? Where you will build and then you'll have what we call down weeks where you're resting a little bit to give your body time to recover. And then directly before a marathon, you do something called a taper, which is just kind of like a wild experience, which is where like you intentionally pepper in rest time so that your muscles feel good, your muscles feel recovered, but there's something called the taper crazies where you start to lose your mind a little bit because you're so used to running so much that you're like, is that a phantom like ankle injury that I feel? Like, am I getting sick right now? Like your body plays tricks on you because you're so used to doing something for so long. And you get this thing called the taper crazies at the end, which is sort of like the end of your cycle before you go and run a marathon.
And of course, having kids, you have to make sure to avoid catching the germs that
Oh my
the
gosh.
youngins bring home.
Jeff, there was a moment where you work with my husband as well, so you know him, where he looked at me a week before the marathon, Jeff, and he was, I think I have COVID. And I was like, sir, we are getting divorced. You are out of here. Because you train for so long and you like the thought of him having COVID, me getting COVID, I wouldn't obviously put anyone at risk in a race like that. If I were sick, I would have to sit out. And so you start to like go crazy thinking that all of this preparation and all of this work potentially would have been for naught, which is scary too.
Yeah, that would have been that would have been a tough blow to take for sure.
Yeah.
So you did the sub 4 in New York,
Yes.
so you did achieve other than finishing the race, you achieved
Yes.
a goal there.
A goal.
Yeah. So all right. So now you're getting ready. You're going to Chicago. What's your mindset as you start to uh, get underway with this particular marathon?
Yes. So I with my coaches, we talk about goals, but we don't really talk about goals in a way like we do at work, right? Like at work, we're so focused, we're hyper focused on like good, better, best goals, which is great, right? Because I think you have to know going into anything that you do, kind of like what you're hoping to achieve. And so with my first marathon, obviously I had a good, better, best mindset. My good was finish the race, which we talked about was like just cross the finish line, make it to the end. That's great. Like that's good. I have achieved a goal. My better goal for New York was sub 4. It's like if you Google like how fast should you do a marathon, like sub 4 is considered like good. It's very like kind of open ended, like a good measure of a marathon. And then my best goal for New York was sub 3:45. And I really thought going into New York before I even set a foot like on the pavement, it's like I have 3:45, right? Like I've run so many half marathons, I've run so many local 5 and 10Ks, I've done mile trials. Like I'm not like super fast, but I'm a pretty fast gal. Like I could get that. And then New York humbled me so much, which we talked a lot about in my first episode with you. Like it was so humbling, such a great experience. So I hit that better goal, which is great. But going into this training cycle, going into Chicago, I had like honestly not a lot of conversations about my goals with my coaches. We talked like very like pie in the sky, like, hey, I've done New York, I've done Disney, obviously really casually. I'd like to push myself a little bit and see what I can do, but we didn't like put a lot of numbers on it. I feel like I'm talking like I'm like a boyfriend in high school who's like, we didn't put a label on it. Like I just didn't I just like didn't want to put any pressure on myself. I knew that I wanted to try and see what I could do, but I didn't want to like, I don't know, I didn't want to put too much on it. And I feel like they were kind of following my lead with that, which was great. And so we're about a month out from the race. One of my coaches messages me and it's like, what's your vibe? Like, what are you thinking? What's the goal? And I go, well, I would really love to do a sub 3:45. And he's like, okay. Like, didn't seem surprised by that goal, but also didn't seem like, I don't know, he was just kind of like nonchalant about it. And he's like, well, what's your stretch goal? And I was like, well, I would love to be with like a 3 something. I think I put like 3 colon, like 3 and an X, like a 30 something is my stretch goal. And if I can finish with a 3:30 something, like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine. Like that would have been for me in New York of doing like a sub 3:45. And he just goes, okay. Like, again, didn't make anything like really big out of it, didn't say much about it. So I'm like, is that like doable? Is that not doable? I'm looking at my numbers. I'm running a lot of those like zone 2 runs. I'm running 20 miles at like a 9-minute pace, which is like a 4-hour marathon. So I'm like trying to do the math, but I'm not totally sure. I'm trusting the process a lot. I think so much of running is trusting yourself, trusting your body, and then trusting your coaching team and trusting that like they can see the data, they see the work that you're putting in, and they have an understanding of what you're going to be able to do. And so it's funny you asked this, like, what did I feel like when I started the race? So one of my teammates who were coached by the same person in Orlando, he ran Chicago as well. And so we're having dinner the night before Chicago and we're like a little bit on edge. We're like a little bit anxious. We're eating our pasta. We're so tired of carbohydrates. Like I still like can't look at a loaf of bread the same. Like I'm so tired. But so we're eating this meal and he's like, what are you thinking? And I'm like, well, like again, with my good, better, best, good would be to beat my New York time. So under 3:59, better would be 3:45, and then best would be 3:30 something. And he's like, Lauren, the fact that you still don't realize like what you can do is astonishing. And I was like, what do you mean? And he's like, you're obviously going to hit those goals. Like you're way faster than that. And I was like, truly surprised, Jeff. I was like, what do you mean? And so we've been running together a lot during this training cycle. Like I said, we have similar coaches, or we have the same coaches who have been giving us very similar plans. And he's like, I don't know. Like, he's like, you're borderline being delusional about this whole thing. And I'm like, I don't know. I'm just like hoping for the best. Da, da, da. So the race starts and I feel so good, Jeff. Like, I don't know if it's because I've already done New York at this point. If the quality of the training was so much better or what, but like from the very beginning, I feel like unstoppable. Like I just feel so confident. I feel so secure in the training and I felt like so sure about what the day was going to be like. It's like a level of clarity that I've heard people talk about when they talk about marathoning before. And I was always like, they're lying because this is really, really hard. And just the whole day I felt just like so calm, so focused, like just kind of was there to do this job. And it felt so good. And I I don't want to bury the lead here, but I got a 330 something. I got 335 and change, which was a 24-minute difference from New York, which is kind of crazy.
Okay, so what is different about the Chicago Marathon than the New York Marathon?
So the biggest thing that everyone had said that I didn't really realize until I started running was the course. So the course in New York is notoriously difficult because you have a lot of rolling hills, particularly on the back half of the course. So the front half, the first half of a marathon, you're typically feeling like real good. You have a lot of adrenaline, like you're fueled right. And it's amazing. The back half, especially after miles like 18 to 20, is what people call like the pain cave. And that's where like your mind breaks down before your body breaks down. I think we got into this a little bit in the first podcast, but like your body can keep going. Like we're like descendants of people who ran like on the plains in Africa. Like your body can go. Your mind is the thing that starts to break down. And so New York is notoriously a little bit more of a difficult course because not only are you just feeling like fatigued and tired and like mentally you're starting to break down at the end, that's when the hills start to pick up in a really like impactful way. And so starting at mile 15, you have a bridge that's like just a steady incline. And like that bridge was rough for me in New York. But the worst part in New York was going through Central Park. Central Park is literally just like this.
Rolling
And
hills. Yeah.
people are like having the best time of their life with picnics and drinks. And you're like, ah! You're like, I'm dying. I'm mentally like breaking down. My body's so tired. Everyone's having a great time. And it was just really, really difficult. And Chicago is what they call a flat and fast course. So the whole course maybe has an elevation of like 40 to 50. So very flat and fast, like comparatively to other world major courses. And so you're just like you're not working at the same level of effort. And then particularly at the end, you're not experiencing that same thing for miles 21 to 26, where you're like cursing everything, you're going uphill, you're watching people frolic. Like there was none of that. And so just the course itself was a lot, I would say for me, less challenging. So not only did I go into it with the experience of one really, really difficult world major under my belt, but it was a flatter and it was a faster course, which is really, really helps too.
So you're feeling that as you go along. It's like, okay, this is much more doable.
Totally. Totally. I mean, I think it's like anything where if you go into it with a preconception, like you're going to lean into that, right? And so like New York, I went into it thinking like, oh, this is a pretty hard course. And I knew like I watched, this is like such a nerdy thing, Jeff, but I watched, there's all these like YouTube flyover videos where you can watch like the entirety of the race course. And so I did that like many times for New York so I could like visualize where I would be at what parts of the course. And so like I don't know if that helped me or not because I think I got to the hard parts and I was like, man, this is hard. And I didn't do that at all with Chicago. I didn't watch a single like course video. I knew it was a flat and fast course, but I just kind of was like the whole time like sort of delighted by what I was seeing. I'd heard that it wasn't as much crowd participation as New York. So I thought it would be like a different experience. And I was just like, at every turn, I was just so happy and so like surprised and like, oh, this is great. Like, I think my expectations were a little bit different of Chicago as well. And so it was such a great experience. And I think because I maybe didn't put as much pressure on it too, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the fact you had one, you had one in the bag. We're
Yeah.
essentially two now,
Yeah,
going into that. So, okay, you can finish. Now,
exactly.
now it's okay. How can I really push myself?
Yeah.
So, 3:35:56, your finish time.
Yes.
That's pretty amazing.
Insane. Insane. My one of my coaches has this expression where like right before we're about to start a rep. So we're going to do something, we're going to repeat something, right? Like that's a rep. We're going to go maybe 800-meter reps a few times. We line up and he's like, reps, reps, reps. And it got into my head that like the more that you repeat something and the more that you feel comfortable with what you're doing, like the easier it is to perform. And so it stood out to me when you mentioned like, okay, now that I have New York under my belt, now that I had Disney under my belt, like I'd had a couple of reps in. And I think kind of like a rubber band, right? Like once you prove to yourself that you can do something, your body remembers. And so I think that that's something that went into this too, is that not only did I have obviously the experience of like the first and then even the second marathon, but like my body had a familiarity with it that like I'm going to finish, I'm going to have fun, it's going to be a great time, like I can do it. And then there was that also like that component of like surprise and delight of just like the marathon course and the town itself. That really carried me through the race, which was so exciting.
Was there a difficult portion of the race?
So I would say throughout this race, there really wasn't one time, like in New York, there was clearly, like punctuations of times that were very difficult. Like that last bridge, like Central Park, several times at Central Park, like I had lots of like come to Jesus moments in that race. This one, I felt so good until I didn't, but I truly like felt even at that point, I felt really good. Like my maximum pace per mile in Chicago, I don't think it maybe just went over 9 minutes, which 9 minutes was like my median pace per mile in New York.
Yes,
so,
I'm looking at that 9:04.
Yeah. So even though it was like the most hard for me was in Chicago was like, I think mile like 21, 22. And even then, like I could have given more. I was just so far ahead of my goal, Jeff, that I was like, I just want to enjoy this. Like I remember taking this deep breath and like looking around and being like, this is almost over. Like I was at mile, like I said, like 21, 22. I did think of something to answer your question. Like, is there a time where I was like a little over it or a little like, ugh? So there's one part in the course where you're going down, you pass the mile marker for 21 and it's an out and back. So a lot of the times in a marathon, you're basically doing like New York, for example, is a start to finish route. So you start in Staten Island, you finish in Central Park. So the whole time you're just progressing. Chicago is a lot windier. So Chicago, you have a lot of like out and back segments where like you'll go up and then you'll go back. And those are difficult on your brain because you pass people and then you start thinking like, wait, what mile marker was that? So like you turn around and you catch a glance of like where you're going and it can mess with your brain if you're really tired. And so the one time that this messed with me was mile 21. I'm running. I'm feeling great. Like I'm feeling so good. Like, oh my gosh, it's like, oh, this is the best race ever. I'm going like this. And then I go over here and then I see mile 24 and I'm at 21 and 24 is right there. And I'm like, how far down are we going to loop back around to 24? And so I'm like, you know what? It's going to come up before you even know it, Lauren. But that's where you enter that pain cave I was talking about, where like I felt good this time, but that's where your brain starts to break down before your legs ever will or before your body ever will. And then I'm going. I'm looking at every mile. I check my watch. It's like a little game. I have a pace band and then there's a mile marker and I check the lapse time, check the mile marker to see where I'm at. And I check my pace band. It's like my little kind of thing to keep me going through the race. I'm like, I'm at mile 22. I'm at mile 23. I'm like, where is mile 24? And I would say between like 21 and 24 is the time where when you look at my splits, which are like my mile times, everything is like consistent. And then 21, 24 goes, which is where I'm like, what are we doing? Where am I going? And then as soon as I saw 24, I was like, okay, I have 2 miles and change. Like you can do anything for 2 miles. And that's where my pace starts to like pick back up again and I'm having a good time. Yeah. But
so
even
that,
like,
they snuck extra time, they snuck extra distance into this marathon, right?
Well, so I do have a funny story. I have some girlfriends who ran this marathon 2 years ago, and they said that multiple people were going under the little partition and cutting off miles 21 to 24. And they were like, listen, you're going to see it and you're going to see people doing it. And you just have to stay strong. they're like, it's not worth it. You'll get disqualified. They're like, you're going to think about doing it because people will be doing it. And I didn't see anyone doing it this race, which was great. But my girlfriends did like prime me with this, where they're like, it's going to seem like the fun thing and the right thing, and you're just going to have to say no.
Avoid the temptation, yes.
Yes. There's going to be the apple, and you're going to have to say no.
Well, so as I'm looking at your splits here, see, I do research on the show.
Yes.
So you 8 minutes 21 seconds average mile.
Yeah.
That's outstanding.
It was crazy, Jeff. I still. You're going to make me want to come out of retirement again.
Well, I got to have you on the show another time. So, you'll need to run another race.
I know.
Actually, we'll make you the official marathoner of this podcast, and we'll sponsor your next one.
Amazing. Well, the question that most people give me, Jeff, is like, when are you going to run Boston? Because Boston is like ubiquitous with marathoning.
Yes.
Right. And I've always said, like, I have no desire. Like, I always knew I would run a marathon, which we talked about last time. I loved that my first one was New York. Absolutely loved Chicago. It was such a great experience. I want to say that I don't want to do Boston, but I probably do.
Well, let's say when's the lottery for that one?
Yes. Well, so Boston is really unique in that Boston doesn't have a lottery.
Okay.
So the only way that you can get into Boston is through time qualifying or a charity route. And so most world majors, so there's 7 world majors, most you can get in 3 ways: time qualifying, charity. Actually, let me amend that: 4 ways: time qualifying, charity, lottery, or travel. So like tour groups. So specifically like a lot of international marathons like London, Tokyo, Sydney, you can go through a tour group, which is great. And so you want to pay, do you want to pay, want to get a lottery, or are you fast? And so Boston's like, we don't care about the lottery. We want you to pay or we want you to be fast. So for me, so I'm 38. So I'm in the 36 to 39 or 35 to 39 like age range right now. And so to qualify for Boston, I would need to run a marathon in 3 hours and 30 minutes. And so I did Chicago in 3:35:56, I think, 56, 57. You know better than I do. And so that's one of those things where it's frustrating because you're like, could I have done it 5 minutes faster? Potentially. There is always a buffer for Boston too. So many people apply that even though 3:30 is the time qualifier for my age group, every year they'll come out and say, actually, there's a cutoff of this amount of minutes. And so in 2025, the cutoff was 4.5 minutes. So I actually would have needed to run this race almost 10 minutes faster, which is quite a bit faster. So that's a sub 8-minute mile. It's like a 7:45 for 26.2 miles, which is insane. So I don't know. I think there's probably a potential for that, but I don't know. Maybe when I'm 60 and I can qualify with like.
I don't know. You keep stretching those goals up. You might get. Boston would be interesting just because it's around Patriots Day. It's in April.
Yeah.
So you got a different time of year. I would imagine that would be a little bit different. You would have to counter for that being warmer.
I'm actually really glad you brought this up because this is something that I feel like I didn't talk about a lot last time. And it's such a key part of that training block concept that I was talking about earlier, which is we live in Florida. Florida is hot, humid, and just like treacherous in the summer. And so when you're training for your marathon block, if you're running a fall marathon, you're training in the dead of summer. Like I told you, I started in July. I mean, there's nothing worse than Florida in July. You know this, Jeff. Like you're dying. It's so the humidity is oppressive. If you want to actually get out there and run before it's blisteringly hot outside, you have to get up at like 4 or 5 in the morning, especially if you have to get a certain amount of volume under your belt.
And it's
So
still humid.
it's still humid. Like you're like the amount of sweating that you do. And so a lot of people actually say that training in the South gives you an advantage for fall marathons up north because all of your training, it's like the equivalent of swimmers like swimming with weights, right? Where then all of a sudden you go up, there's no humidity, it's 45 degrees out. Your lungs, like you can breathe in so much air, everything's a lot lighter. And so there's a lot of like chatter in the running community that, especially training in the South for fall marathons, gives you this little bit of an advantage. And I have to say, both times, I definitely felt like that was the case. Like the weather for New York last year was incredible. It was a little cold in the beginning. Like I had throwaway layers, I had hand warmers. You have a lot of anxious energy too in the beginning. So like you're kind of shaking because you're so excited. Chicago was a lot warmer. It was like 55 before we started versus like 40, 45. But then the end of Chicago was like 68, 70, which is a little warm for us Floridians. Very cool. But for but for people who are maybe training in like northern climates, a little warm, a little more direct sunlight. But you just feel so good. But when you do a spring race, you're training in Florida winter. And Florida winter is amazing. And so a lot of people say like your performance will change depending on the duration of your training block. So like how long is it? Like the geographic location of where you're training, and then obviously conditions on race day. So like Berlin, for example, is a really, really big marathon. That's like considered one of like the early fall marathons. And so that race happened this year in September, and Berlin was like unseasonably warm. And so a lot of like professional runners and a lot of people who like traditionally will run those types of world majors were like very uncomfortable. And it kind of skewed some of the results because I think it was like high 70s, and high 70s in Europe in September is like very unseasonable. And so you have to obviously like adjust your fueling strategy, adjust your hydration strategy, and then like some of the gains that you would expect to see at the end of a marathon cycle, you might not be able to count on, which is kind of tricky too.
Yeah. And I would imagine a Florida girl would do good in that spot, right?
Yes. When I ran the Brooklyn half in May, and I think it was like 65, but like 80% humidity. And everyone, Jeff, was dying. And I was like, it's May. It was middle of May. I was like, 65 degrees. This is incredible. I was like, should I wear long sleeves? And all of the New Yorkers, because it's a pretty regional race. Like I just happened to go up to New York to run it. People were dropping like flies. Like they were like, this is the worst day of my life. And I was like, this is great. Like I feel like our skin is so much more moist and our lungs can handle anything being in the South.
Yeah. Did you watch the New York Marathon yesterday?
Oh my gosh. Did I watch the New York Marathon? I was crying, Jeff. Like
Why were you crying?
I know. I was watching the video. There's just nothing like the New York City Marathon. Listen, I loved Chicago. I have my medal here. It was the best. It was such a great experience. But the New York City Marathon is the biggest marathon in the world. It's something about like the time of the year. Like it's always right around election day, right after Halloween. Like the camaraderie, the stories you see at the finish line of just like all different people, all different like things that they're going through and things that they have, proven to themselves, proven to like, it's just so emotional. And just like my connection to it is my first marathon place. Like I could not stop watching it. I was lucky to have 5 friends who were running it this year. So I was following them on the app, looking at their little dots around the city. And it's just, I think the world can feel so divisive sometimes, especially just like the political kind of environment that we're in and just people arguing all the time. And like sport brings people together in a way that it's just so, I don't know, it's just so warm and fuzzy. And then marathoning and then just watching like just the amount of people who are out celebrating. Like I wasn't crying because I wasn't there running. I was crying because I wanted to be there, like supporting everyone. Like I was like, next year I'm gonna be in New York, regardless of whether I'm running, and I'm gonna be holding a sign for a stranger and just like cheering them on this amazing day. There's just something about supporting people and marathoning and bringing like I don't know, just it's just like I'm gonna start crying now. Like it just like the connection that it brings to people and like it's just so heartwarming. And I just get goosebumps even thinking about it.
Yeah. Well, as a UCF person, you can relate to this. I cry every time I see a replay of the Peach Bowl. So,
It's just like it sticks with you and you just like it makes you feel you remember where you were, like the smell, like it's just so nice. I don't
yeah.
know. I love it.
Well, congrats to you. That's awesome that you did a personal record,
Yeah.
and we'll see what the future holds when you'll be like a rock band that comes out of retirement.
Oh my
At the
gosh.
time.
Do not let my husband watch this podcast because he thinks that we're done with running. We're done with runcations, as he says. Like everything this last year has been like, we're traveling somewhere for me to run a little bit, me to do a little thing over here. So I gotta pump the brakes a little bit and let our life
So
let
you're
our life
saying
play out.
so you're saying I should not put this in the Slack channel work for him to hear.
Listen, you can do what you want. He knows me. He knows where this is headed. Okay.
Well, that is so awesome, Lauren. Thank you so much for being on again. I greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I love talking marathoning with you. This has been so fun.